Hi guys, I've been reading a lot of comments on Facebook and Twitter about how app reskinning is dead and anybody who sells code is a fraud and all this kind of stuff, and it's really got me thinking. I don't normally post videos, but it just got me thinking about how I got started in app reskinning and how people who are just getting started can succeed. So I've got three real main points. Point number one, well, I'll just tell you what they are. First, I'll tell you how I got started, what I'm doing right now, and then last of all, how I see, the industry changing. And for those of you that don't know, I probably have, I don't know, upwards of 250 apps out. I think we're just about to cross the 19 million download mark sometime this week. And we're averaging about 1.7 million downloads a month right now. So, I have some experience. I can't claim to have written any books or sold any courses or anything like that. I'm just a guy who makes apps. So about 18 months ago, my wife told me that I had 30 days to replace my income, or I had to go get a real job. And since there's not really any way to program an app in 30 days or and release it, the only option I had open to me at that time was reskinning. I selected 5 different codes. I bought some from Carter Thomas's site. I bought some from Chupa Mobile. I bought a couple from some other developers in the UK. And I reskinned all of those apps. I got 20 apps out in 30 days. And at the end of the 30 days, I was averaging about $35, maybe $40 a day in revenue, which, that doesn't sound like a lot, but it was enough to pay the mortgage, which bought me another month. And by the end of the next month, I was making about $60 or $70 a day. And about a month later, I was making $400 a day. And now here we are 18 months later. I have 18 employees that work with me, programmers, designers, artists, and we publish, on average, I would say we publish at least an app a day, which, I think is pretty good. So that's how I got started in this. And a lot of people talk about reskinning, in a pretty derogatory term. They're like, oh, it's app spam. And quite frankly, that when I started, that's what I made. I made app spam because that was the only thing I could do on my own. I had a deadline and I just had to get it done. Now our games are a lot more involved. They're a lot bigger codes, but essentially we reskin the same codes over and over and over again. We will come up with a design concept, and then that goes off from the project managers. They order the writers to write a story. That goes to the level designers, who then design levels that relate to the story, whatever we're trying to target. And I used to worry, I used to be like, oh, well, how am I going to come up with new topics? But there's always things trending. There's always new movies coming out. There's always new games coming out. There's always new ideas in the public conscience that we can tap. And, certain gameplays, they just never go out of style. People are always going to play puzzle games. They're always going to play first-person shooters. The people who like racing games are always going to play racing games. And so from that perspective, as a business, it's really stable that way. The biggest shift that I have seen, though, and I think this is where a lot of, people's frustration comes from, is that, the mentality that you can buy a cheap $100 crappy code and then reskin it really easily, the next day, and publish it and be the next guy making Flappy Birds, making $1 million. It's really, it's flawed in that it assumes that people are stupid. And, people want to see beautiful artwork. They want to see new things, but they also want to feel comfortable. So when you take a game, you take a racing game and you change the levels to be a different city, well, different cars, it's a different game. People who play it have a different experience, even though it's the same code. And I think as the industry matures, I think that the codes that people are reskinning are going to have to get better. I invest I would probably say, you know, a good $10,000 a month in upgrading code and making it better. Now, that's not to say that somebody just starting has to have that kind of cash flow, because A, you start where you're at, but B, there are higher end codes available for people, and it's also where people look for the code. Sometimes it's not necessarily that you're going to find it on a, you know, a template site like Chupa Mobile. Sometimes you have to go and you know, get your hands dirty a little bit, do some development. But the whole name of the game, the whole reason that we reskin is it minimizes risk. The risk is, you know, you spend a bunch of money and you get no return. I mean, one of those 20 games I made when I first got started, I think I paid $12 for the code, $20 for the artwork, and I just checked yesterday, and I made $14,000 in the last 18 months off of that one code. Now, is that the exception or the rule? It's probably the exception. But if I hadn't made 20 apps, there's no way that that code ever could have existed. And that for me is how it is. It's somewhat of a numbers game where you have to look at the code and say, okay, I'm going to invest X number of dollars in the code, not so I can build it once, but so that I can build it 10 times, and one of those times is going to make all the other 10 times worth it, and then, you know, and then provide a return. And I think that's the concept people don't understand, is reskinning actually gives you a lot of freedom and security that your investment is going to be able to mature, as opposed to making one game, one program, saying, oh, that failed, make another one, oh, that failed, you know, and then maybe you can't survive long enough to make any more. Whereas if you take a code and you say, oh, I made a game, failed, I'll just make another game using the same code. Oh, hey, that one didn't fail. I'll do it again. I'll learn from my mistakes. I'll learn, oh, it was the icon, it was the screenshots. I mean, I think that's the real concept that people are forgetting, is that the purpose of reskinning is that it allows us the freedom to learn what works and to learn what doesn't. Reskinning isn't just like oh, you know, every app that I publish is going to make a ton of money, but it's, you come up with a percentage. I mean, right now we're at about a 25% success rate, which means 25% of our apps, you know, by our definition of success, are profitable, and that 25% more than accounts for everything else, and, you know, provides a really good lifestyle for me, for my business partner, for our programmers, for our designers, for our artists, for, you know, whoever. All of us, you know, we're all doing quite well in this because of the power of reskinning. Anyhow, so those are my thoughts on the topic. You guys are welcome to, you know, hash it out. I'm always here and always willing to comment. Sometimes I say things that are, you know, wildly inappropriate, but overall, I really just want to see people succeed in this industry and you know, grow with it and learn together, because we're all, you know, we're all on this adventure together. Anyhow, peace out.